Growing up, I would often look through these Florida wildlife magazines, and I would look through the pictures I would see some habitat like this. And I thought to myself, you know what? When I can drive, I'm going to travel this whole state and I'm going to visit these places. And I did. Traveling north and central Florida, I've seen the biggest oak trees and cypress trees in the state of Florida. And I would venture in Kissimmee Prairie hiking and driving all over the place, including Big Cypress and the Everglades. Up in the Panhandle, I would visit all the pitcher plant bogs and pine savannas. Florida's a beautiful place, and I was born just in the nick of time to see most of it. However, now, I'm going to go ahead and say the real Florida is dead. Well, it's just about dead. And you're probably thinking, Mike, what are you talking about? I drive around and I see trees and lakes and ponds everywhere. Yeah, you still see that. However, I want you to look at this in a new light. As you're driving around, start looking for houses. See how many miles are in between each house. You're going to notice outside of our national forest, there's only a few acres in between them. Also, if you don't know the natural history or what the proper ecosystems are supposed to look like, most of that land you're driving through is timberlands. They have a 20-year kill on them. They plant the pines, and in 20 years, they cut them all down. During that time, everything gets cut down, everything gets sprayed and killed, and the ground gets re-tilled and more pine gets planted in. Everything that lived there in the last 20 years is dead or gone. That's not good. Let's think of the cities here. Back in the day, the cities would have been surrounded by natural areas. That's not the case anymore. The natural areas are surrounded by cities or developments. The amount of growth Florida has had in the last couple of years is pretty nuts. And instead of Florida cities growing up, they're growing out. We have cities starting to connect all along the East Coast. Most of the East Coast in South Florida is all city. And on the West Coast is starting to look like that from Tampa all the way south to Naples. The people moving into these developments that are spreading out to natural areas, well, they don't care, or they don't know, which if you're one of those people, you should know. You need to educate yourself on what you're doing. Don't get me wrong, I live outside of the city. However, I have a few acres and I'm naturalizing most of that land. The urban developments are going up. They are house next to house, next to house, next to house. And these new urban areas are moonscaping habitat. Now, I'm not necessarily saying the growth needs to stop. I don't want to say I'm anti-growth. I am anti-urban sprawl. All these houses are close together. You might as well live in a city. What makes sense to me is growing up the cities and not allowing this urban sprawl that goes miles and miles and miles and eventually connects all the cities together. That's not good. And this used to be only a thing in our big cities. But now they're coming to our medium-sized cities like Gainesville or Cala. And now this urban sprawl is moving further north into the last of our good habitat. Think about this. A lot of people don't know this, but underneath our feet here in Florida, yeah, you have some sand, maybe a little bit of clay, but underneath that is a limestone layer. Inside those limestone layers, all these series of caves, and they're filled up with water. It's our Floridan aquifer. Now, when it rains, it's raining on the ground and it's getting filtered through all these layers of sand. If you have your houses there with your green lawns, eventually there's going to be a problem. Now, as far as sucking up too much water, I don't know about that. Florida has a lot of water underneath it, but with the seepage that goes in the water, even though there's all those layers of sand, we also have cracks in the surface that are direct roots to the aquifer. They're called sinkholes. The sinkholes, as in their name, are sinks. They are pretty much direct lines to the aquifer. And imagine just filling that up with your yard waste. It's not good. This urban sprawl will eventually affect us, the people. So it's not good for the environment, and it's not good for us. And I didn't even touch on the flora and fauna that are getting affected, that are getting wiped out. You don't know it and you might not care, but there's whole species of frogs and salamanders that don't exist anymore in areas they used to. This problem itself is just going to grow. There's only going to be a few animals that are adapted to growing in city habitats that'll live. And most of those are non-native animals. So yeah, we did it all right in Florida. We knocked down the native stuff and we put our own stuff there, and now we have some type of weird urban habitat going on. If you're watching this video, and I appreciate it because I want you to know that is a problem. And like I said, I'm not anti-growth. I understand since the beginning of America, people have been moving to different states to benefit what they need. I understand that. If I had to, I would also. You do need to know what's going on. We're kind of just moonscaping what was natural. The real Florida and turning it into, well, something weird and something that will only benefit us for a period of time. So what's my solution that can help this? Stop buying houses in these large developments that are so far away from the city you're working in. Make these developers know that these things aren't that desirable. Think about this. Those houses are matchbox houses. They're put up in a matter of weeks. Also, what's the point of living in one? You're not really benefiting from it being away from the city. Maybe it's cost-wise, but that probably has more to do with the politics inside that city. The more people that move there, the more you can change that. If you want to move to somewhere where you're out of the city and into the country, do that. Get something with 5 or 6 acres. Even an acre is good. And if you do that, naturalize some of that land. Look up what type of habitat you're originally in, whether it's some sandhills, some flatwoods, maybe you're in a hammock. Naturalize your land. If you move to one of those matchbox houses that are in a development, think about when you open your windows. Your neighbor's windows are right there. You're not really getting a benefit of the country. It's still city living. The way I see in my head to do it is to make sure those developers are building up the cities and not growing it out. The only other way that would save it is government intervention, either the government buying up land or they're putting laws to stop this urban sprawl. I don't know about you, but I don't like the government getting involved in the privately owned places. I don't want to have my land and the government starts to tell me I have to treat it a certain way. I have more faith in educating people, hoping that they would just do the right thing. Landowners, people that own thousands and thousands of acres. Even if it's timberland, don't sell your land to the developers. Have kids, have a family. Make sure you're passing it on. Teach your kids, teach your family about what is special about the land you own. Learn the natural history of Florida. Learn the history of people in Florida. Read the book A Land Remembered. If that doesn't turn you into a Florida wild enthusiast, I don't know what will. And here might be the biggest thing is education. Instead of teaching your kids about the rainforest, which is absolutely great also, first teach them about the wild where you live. I have pride for this state. I can't see myself living anywhere else. However, this paradise turns into a parking lot. Yeah, I'll move. I think my aggravated rant is over. I only touched very small portions of it to make this a short video. And yeah, that's it. I'll see y'all later. Bye.